Hey, what's going on? Jake here with Uncommon EDC. Hope you had a great weekend. Today we're doing what I'm calling a Monday Mashup video, and that's exactly what it sounds like. I took what would have otherwise been about a week's worth of uploads, and I realized they were all going to be pretty short, so I just combined them all into this one video. So going to be a little bit random, but should be a ton of fun. We're going to start out with some channel shoutouts, move into a pouch comparison from two Grim EDC pouches that both have their own video here on the channel, but gonna point out these subtle differences because they're pretty similar otherwise. From there, I'll go in no particular order, but gonna look at some new gear that I purchased, some new gear that was sent out to me, some old knives that I picked up locally, and some gear that I'm testing out for some future videos. And so, like I said, random, but it should be a ton of fun. Let's dive right in with those channel shoutouts, starting with Thrifty Kannify. You can see his two stickers on the outside here. We recently did a sticker swap. He has that classic round as well as this Texas shaped one because of course he is from Texas, and his stickers do a great job of giving some context on his channel. Thrifty Kannify, and you can see both of them have that traditional slip joint. So he is into budget traditionals, covers them extensively on his channel, does a really great job. He's super knowledgeable, super informative, and just a great guy, a funny guy, and have really enjoyed getting to know him over the last month or so. I will link to both these channels in the title of this video, so I'll tag them. You can click on that tag to get over to their channel. Definitely recommend subscribing, but also checking out a little bit of their content while you're there, because what happens is if you subscribe without watching any content, after 24 to 48 hours, YouTube will unsubscribe you. And so even if you just watch 30 seconds now, come back to it later, that should be enough to keep you subscribed to their channels. After that, we're going to look at Slipjoint Sawyer, another great channel. He's based out of the UK. We did a sticker swap. It did take a little bit longer to get there just because of the distance, but they both did arrive eventually. And his stickers are really good looking as well. Love the color on it, and also give you a good idea of what his channel is all about. So Slipjoint Sawyer, and then in that logo, you can see the Swiss Army knife. So he's into traditionals, he's into Victorinox, and delves deeply into both of those, does a really great job. And if you're not into Victorinox before you get into his channel, you probably will be by the time you watch a few of his videos, because he does a really great job of covering them, showing all of the different features that they have and the different models, and really makes you want to start ordering some Victorinox. So really great channel. And in the description of each of his videos, he links to his Discord. It's a free Discord. You don't have to pay anything or anything like that. I know there are members only Discords, but this isn't one of them. It's called the Slipjoint Sanitarium, and spelled exactly how it sounds. He didn't throw an extra U in there like he's known to do, but really great Discord, a lot of fun. Both these channels are in there, myself and a few other channels as well, but even more than that, there's people that don't have channels that are just into knives. And so it makes it a really cool place to talk knives. It's called the Slipjoint Sanitarium, but there's modern locking knives, there's fixed blades, and everything in between, and also gets off topic quite a bit, and that's always just as much fun. Just interacting with people who are just as into knives as you and from all over the world. So it makes it a really, really good time. Definitely recommend checking that out. I'll link to that in the description of this video as well, but you can also find that link in the description of any of his videos. So with that said, let's get into that pouch comparison. So these are both from Grim EDC, and I've done videos on both of them, although these two are brand new, hot off the press, new designs, both in that mint colorway. You have the checkers and the topo. But the videos I did were on different designs, but the same exact layout. So you have the Scythe 1 pouch and the Scythe version 2. And right off the bat, you might notice the difference. In the 1, you have this full panel of Velcro, which I do have some of their recent patches on. These are all ones that haven't appeared in other videos. I have a bunch of their patches that have appeared in different videos. But after my last video on the version 2, they sent over a coupon code Uncommon EDC that'll save you 10% on any of their items in their store, including the patches and the pouches. And then they also sent over a bunch of patches. These ones were actually a gift from my sister before that, but the rest of them they sent over to check out, and so I figured I'd throw them on here. But you can see the major difference between 1 and 2 on the outside is just that you have a full panel of Velcro on 1, and on 2 you have this pattern strip on either side, which I think looks pretty cool. You do give a little Velcro, but you do get that back later in the pouch. And then if we flip to the back, they're exactly the same. Obviously the patterns are different, but that's just because I bought different patterns and they come in a bunch of different patterns. But you have a little bit more Velcro back here. And then if we get into the inside, that's where the kind of major functional difference is, because this you are losing a little bit of Velcro, but not a ton of real estate, so you can still put patches on there. But when you get into the inside, they're going to be basically identical in the layout of all of the pockets, with the exception of this panel right here. So you can see on version 1, we have an elastic strap that'll hold a piece of gear into there. And that's a pretty versatile little slot. I like that a lot, actually. And it's just one wide piece of Velcro, so you can put a wider piece of gear in there, no problem. You can use a pocket clip, but it is also elastic, so it should hold it in there as long as you put a large enough item. And so that's version 1. If we look at version 2, it's going to be very different. We have some more patch real estate in that panel. And so you can see it's the exact same size as that internal section here, but instead we have a hook and loop panel that you can attach more patches if that's what you want to use it for. But you can also use it for, like, they have organization stuff that uses a hook and loop system, so you can just slap that on there for those customizable pockets. You can put Velcro straps in there, you can put Velcro strips directly on a piece of gear and then slap that in there if you know that's how you're going to carry it. And so it makes it look pretty versatile, and you can also just put patches that you don't want to get damaged on there. But really cool pouches from them. They come out with some really great designs. I really like the look of these two. You can tell they're fresh off the press, never been used. And so these ones just released, but really great, good size too. These aren't ones that I'd put in my pocket, although if you wear like cargo pants, you probably could. But they go really well in a bag. I'm using the nutsack sling a lot recently, and it doesn't have a lot of internal organization, so this type and size of pouch is just about perfect for that. Definitely check them out. I'll put the link as well as that discount code in the description of the video. Let's get those out of the way and move on to, let's actually stay in the patch realm. I know that was a pouch mainly, but it showed a lot of patches there. This is from my buddy Ian over at Phi Tonics. This is an unreleased patch that's coming out soon. Has some really cool new packaging as well. This one's called the Escape. You can see it says Escape in the corner, has this vapor cloud going across it, and just some really cool colors. He also, like I mentioned, is trying out some new packaging. So you have this mesh pouch with the Phi Tonics logo on the tag, and a few new colorways of the same pouch inside. And this is probably the coolest packaging I've seen on a patch. So we have two more colors. This one is got the brighter color still with the white background, same patch design, just different colorway. And then if we flip it over to the other side, we have the black background with these more like earthy colors, but same design again. And all of those are inside this tube with a sticker that says Escape with Phi Tonics, and then you have the Phi Tonics on that cork. And so really cool packaging for this. I think that's really cool, but also really great patch designs that match up really well with a lot of patches that I already have from him. And so definitely check him out. He's the same guy that did the thumb studs that featured recently in my budget utility knife video. And so usually there's a screw here. You can go on his Etsy store, select a color, and he has a bunch of these thumb studs that make it one-hand operable, but also make it so you can change the blade without a tool, because that screw holds the blade in as well. So really cool company. I'll link to his Etsy store, and also check out his Instagram where he's usually announcing all his new products there. So check out both of those. From there, let's go to a new product. So this is the Swiza pocket knife. It'll probably be a while before I make a video on it, but this is a Swiss-made knife in a similar vein to a Swiss Army knife, but it is not Victorinox despite that cross. So it is Swiss-made. You still have the tweezers in the scale, but the scales are more rubberized instead of that harder plastic feel that you get with Victorinox. These are really grippy rubber, which is cool. And then you have multiple tools in here, a corkscrew, you have an awl over here, and of course that main blade. And so not as thin and slicey as the Victorinox, but really good blade as well, and it does lock. And so when I first got it, I saw that it has this liner lock that's really hard to access, and then there's the spring, and so you have to put a little bit of force behind it. Puts your finger right in the path of the blade, and combined with the spring makes it feel like you might crash into your finger each time you're doing it. So I didn't love that about it, but in the same Discord group, Slipjoint Sanitarium, that I mentioned earlier, Retro Stew asked if this was actually a button that actuates the lock. And so I didn't really do any research on this before I bought it and tried it out. And of course he was right. And so that button that's hidden behind the cross acts to actuate that lock and makes it so you are out of the path of the blade, and just made this so much cooler. So it'll be a while before I do a video on this, but thought it was pretty cool. It's not super expensive, probably a little bit more than a similar Swiss Army knife, but I think this was around 30 or 35 bucks, so nothing too crazy. From there, let's get into some slips. These are by my buddy Brandon over at Everyday Adventure Co. He is local to me. We've met up a few times, most recently at Mike Emler's event. I believe it was called Blades, Brews, and Barbecues. And so that was somewhat nearby. We went out and we were talking about slips because I've been getting into slip joint knives. And so he does leather work. You've seen my wallet, which I'm still carrying from him. He did this beer bomb slip in the same pattern. So this has that Sugeha pattern on it and that blue colorway, really cool. This one's for a beer bomb. But he made up a bunch of knife slips for me. And so if you're familiar with the GEC knife slips, these are a little bit bigger than they're small, but still smaller than they're large. And he made a really nice sampling, not for the specific knives that were in them. These are just kind of a general medium size, but I tried to put some cool matching knives into them. So I'm gonna show off each of these, and 4 of the 5 are the same design. You can see the cactus on one side and Everyday Adventure Co. on the other. But this one, I have that French broadjack from Rosecraft Blades. You can see pretty nicely matched. And so again, that wasn't really intentional by him. He just sent over a couple different colors and I matched them to knives that I already had in the collection. So on top of that, he sent this really cool blue one, which Thrifty Kannify mentioned matches Slipjoint Sawyer's sticker pretty well. Again, not intentional, but in this one, I have the GEC 49 in that blue camel bone. Again, a really nice match to that. And this is a smaller knife, but it still fits in there pretty well, even though the slip itself is much bigger than this knife. In the French broadjack, you can see they're pretty similar, but these are pretty versatile. It's still in there snug. It's not really gonna shake out unless I pinch the edges and then it'll spill right out, but that still fits in there really nicely. So you can see this size that he made them in is really versatile. And we're gonna stick with the same design. I'll show the different one at the end. This one has a bigger knife in it. You can see a really nice camo pattern on this one. And this one I went with that Ohio Riverjack. Recently did a short on this, but just wanted to show that a much larger slip joint will still fit in this medium size slip. And so really like that colorway a lot. I think it's really cool. And then last in that design, we have this dark brown leather with the purple. Sorry about that, battery died again, but we are back, and I think I left off on this nice dark brown slip with the purple accents. I think I was mentioning that he actually let me choose the thread color on this one, whereas the other ones he just surprised me, which is really cool because they matched up really well with the knives that ended up inside of them. But in this one I had a knife in mind, and so I went with that purple. Don't actually have the knife yet, so for now it has a Boker club knife that you've seen on the channel before. Looks really good with this. It has that dark brown burlap micarta and copper bolsters, which I think looks really good in this slip in particular. But last of those slips in that style, this last one is really cool. Another surprise, didn't know it was going to be in the box. And this one has this really kind of aqua green color with a nice yellow accent thread. And coolest thing about it is this pocket clip on the back. And so as you know, most traditional slip joints do not have pocket clips, and so having a slip with a pocket clip really adds to the versatility. All of these other ones I'm mostly carrying in a 5th pocket. It sticks out a little bit, which is perfect because it makes it easy to pull the whole slip, but this one is nice for days where I don't have a 5th pocket, which I definitely have pants that don't have 5th pockets, and so it's nice to be able to just clip them on the top of your pocket, keep it from banging around with your keys and your modern folding knives and whatever else you have in your pocket that day. Keeps the slip looking good. Obviously like a little bit of wear and patina on it, but don't want it just getting chunked by my pry bar, knife, and keys and stuff like that. So having it sit at the top of your pocket's really nice. Now this one's a little bit shorter, as you can see, than the other 4, which I also really like. I have a Tactile Bear in there, another really super thin slip joint from Tactile Knife Co. with Ultim Skills on this one, but I wanted a knife that sticks out a little bit, and that's because this one's going to be clipped to your pocket, and it clips on there pretty securely. You can easily get it off by just lifting it and sliding, but if you don't do that, it grabs on pretty nicely to the fabric of your pants, and so pretty safe and secure in place. And so I like that because with the knife sticking out just a little bit, you can pinch it and slide it right out, but otherwise it's in there nice and snug and secure, and you don't have to worry about removing the entire slip to get it out because it's so far down there that you can't reach it and you have to flip it upside down and squeeze. In this case, you can just pinch and pull. And so that works really, really well, and really happy that he included that because it's not something I would have necessarily thought to order myself, but now that I have it, it's probably my favorite of all of them. And so really cool that he included that. I will link to his website down in the description, but I do want to note that you can't just directly buy any of these on his website. He has plenty of leather gear that's set for sale on his website and ready to order. But if you want something like this, you're going to have to commission it from him. And he does do commissions, but he prioritizes his drops. So the wait time can be a few weeks up to even a month, month and a half. And so definitely want to be patient there if you're commissioning stuff. I would imagine that at some point these might be available to just order different leather and thread combinations on his site, but for now you'd have to commission them. The good ways to reach him would be following him on Instagram. You can reach him there. He also has a Facebook group, and then his email is listed on his website. And so a lot of different options for reaching out. I'll link to as much as possible in the description of this video though. Now, while we're still on slip joints, let's look at two older slip joints that I picked up locally. And so these were used and carried, and well, at least one of them was carried, and picked them up for really cheap. Now they weren't super expensive knives to begin with. Steel Warrior is made by Frost Cutlery, made in China. And so this first one is a Wildcat Whittler by Steel Warrior. Picked it up for a couple of reasons. One, these covers, I love blue, my favorite color, really rich blue on here that looks really nice. And secondly is that it's a little bit unique for a Whittler. Usually you have two blades coming out of that main bolster and one blade coming out of the secondary bolster. In this case, you only have one coming out of the main bolster, this main one, which has tons of etching on it. You have the Wildcat Whittler, a cat, bunch of paw prints, the Steel Warrior etch, and then the Steel Warrior stamp in the tang. And if you flip it over, you have the China and 440 stainless. But this main blade is actually locking. It's a lockback, which is really cool and pretty unique on a Whittler. And so that was my main reason for picking this one up. But you still get both of the other blades. You can see there's two springs on the bottom half that control those two blades. And they feel pretty good still, no rubbing or anything. And pretty good condition on both of those. This one's a little bit gritty, so we'll have to oil this up a little bit and hopefully clean that out. But overall, pretty good find. I don't know how old these are. I'll look into them more later. Should be pretty easy to find, the Wildcat Whittler, and the other one I have the box for. So both should be pretty easy to find, but just picked those up this weekend. Now the second one, already mentioned having the box, so you can see it's a Steel Warrior Doctor's Knife by Frost Cutlery, and you even have the model number over here if you want to look that up, which I definitely will be doing. But you can see Doctor's Knife has that nice square bolster on the bottom and the yellow and green covers, which looks really cool. Typical Doctor's Knife here. Now the action on this one's a little bit gritty, but I don't think this one's actually been carried. See the same Steel Warrior etch and tang stamp. Springs look nice, the brass liners look nice. You can see the covers coming up a little bit. Don't know if that's due to age or if it was like that to begin with. But if we flip over to the back side, you can see it still has the tested 56 to 58 Rockwell sticker. And so that leads me to believe this one's uncarried, but really cool as well. Love the yellow and green on this one. That's really the main reason I went for this one, was the covers in particular. But we'll probably do videos on those in the future. Hopefully I'll have cleaned them up by then. But last but not least, if you've been following along with my Zippo journey, you know I've been adding to my collection. And so wanted to test out some products around Zippo. So first, let's look at the Desert Warrior. This is a Blade HQ exclusive Zippo, but what I really want to show is the insert on this. Standard insert, exactly like you normally see with the cotton bottom, which isn't going to be airtight. There's air that can escape around the edges. It's cotton, so it can absorb right in there, and there's a hole right in the bottom. And so these will last 5 to 7 days per refuel, but you lose a lot to evaporation, more than you actually lose to lighting the lighter. You can extend it just a little bit by taking all the cotton out and relaying out that wick so it's in a better position, and then restuffing the cotton so it's not all sitting at the top, but still looking at 5 to 7 days. So I wanted to see if there was a way to extend the life of that. And so I bought these. I got a 5-pack of them. It was less than $10, probably like $8, something like that. Seems like there's a bunch of companies in China that make these. I don't know who the original was, but thought I'd test them out. They advertise as potentially doubling the life cycle of your Zippo. And so here's your standard insert. Here is this insert. So I'm going to be testing those out with this Black Crackle Zippo. And so this is a 2020. Also has the standard insert, but I already switched out that cotton to this new one, and you can see it seals up along the edges, has this trap door for refueling, so even that has this little circle to seal everything up, and in theory should extend the life. Now if we're looking at that 5 to 7 days and doubling it, we're looking at a 10 to 14 day life cycle on a refuel. And so if it can reach that, I'd be thrilled. I don't know if it will or not, but even if it gets to that 10-day point, I will probably replace every single standard Zippo that I have with one of these inserts. But we'll see how that testing goes. Most likely I'll update you on a future Zippo haul video, but wanted to test out one more product, and that's the Therm Pyrovolt. This is version 2. I missed out on version 1. It's been in my Amazon shopping cart for literally years and years, but never bought it, and it eventually got discontinued. This is version 2. You can see it has these robust hinges, a clasp to keep it closed, a keychain attachment point, and that clasp, you can push it and it flips right open. Doesn't come with an insert, so I put a standard insert in there, and this one still has that cotton bottom, but there's a gasket around that insert that should in theory keep everything nice and tight and prevent evaporation. You can see the plastic on the top moves around a little bit, but once you get it closed, that doesn't happen, and so hopefully that will be pretty tight. There is a little bit more of a gap on the hinge side than there is on the clasp side, so that doesn't inspire a lot of confidence, but I'm hopeful that this will do something similar. If we can get to 10 days, that would be pretty cool. And then once that runs out, I'm gonna add another of these inserts into this insert on the Therm Pyrovolt, and so seeing if doubling that up expands it past that 14-day mark. If we can get to 15 days, would be super impressed with that. But I'm gonna test out both ways, kind of back to back rather than simultaneously, because I only bought one of these lighters. Now, not a huge fan of the lighter itself now that I have it, but still gonna test it out. The first thing is that moves around a little bit, which isn't super confidence inspiring. I already mentioned the gap, but if it still works, that's completely fine. The biggest thing I don't like about it is this clasp gets in the way of that spark wheel. And so anytime you're trying to spark, you crash into the top of that clasp. You don't have a lot of runway, and it's just kind of annoying and uncomfortable. Not painful in any way, but a little bit annoying. And so not a huge fan of this, but if it does what it advertises and can be combined with this to get to, you know, in that 15-day range, I'd be really impressed with it. But I'll link to that in the description below as well. But that's everything. Let me know what you thought. I know I went over a lot of random different things, what your favorites were. Also, while you're here, definitely check out the channels I mentioned, Slipjoint Sawyer and Thrifty Kannify, as well as those makers, Phi Tonics, as well as Everyday Adventure Co. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification button. And as always, I hope you have a great one. Take care.